Now to a case with new details today, raising serious questions about the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. A DACA recipient we first told you about yesterday, 32, employed, and who is deaf and mute, was swept up in a federal immigration raid and put in custody for nearly a month.
I was so nervous. They tried to talk to me. They tried to see if I could talk. I couldn't talk. I pulled out my phone to try to communicate, but they took it away. I would ask them to take off my handcuffs so I could sign, and they would say no. I have DACA. I've already applied. I've already gone through those steps. I thought everything was fine.
Surveillance video here shows agents entering the California car wash where Javier Diaz-Santana works, shouting commands that, of course, he couldn't hear or understand. Agents later attempted to deport him to Mexico, despite Santana being under DACA protection for more than a decade. Joining us now is a lawyer who helped to get him released, Roxana Muro, owner of the law offices of Roxana v. Muro. Thank you very much for joining us. What more has Mr. Santana told you about what that arrest was like and his time in custody was like?
Yes, good morning, Chris. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here today to talk about Javier. When I finally was able to meet with Javier, which is when he was out of custody, he told us about how difficult this whole ordeal was. He was working at a car wash that he has been working at since 2020. As you know, Javier has had DACA since 2013, and he had been working at this car wash for about 5 years. And that day, he is deaf and nonverbal, so he could not hear all of the chaos happening that day. He says that he started to see coworkers running, so he started to run. He did not know what was happening, ran until ICE agents approached him, grabbed him, put him into a truck, and from there he was detained for nearly a month. At no point was he ever told why he was detained. At no point did any agent ever discuss with him his DACA status. I know that when he arrived to the federal detention center at B-18 here in downtown Los Angeles, he was fingerprinted. When they ran his fingerprints, they should have seen that he had been granted deferred action for childhood arrival since 2013. This is a gentleman who has been renewing his DACA status, as I said, doing everything right since he got here. Since 2013, at no point did anyone ever speak with him. He is deaf. In fact, the agents thought that he spoke Spanish. When they did try to speak to him, they wrote to him in Spanish. Since he was handcuffed, he could not motion to them or tell them that he was deaf. It was very difficult for him. He was held for 24 hours without food or water. And he, like I said, they went through his ID. He had a real ID in there. He was hoping that the real ID would allow the agents to see that he must have had some kind of protection in this country. That did not happen.
So the DHS said this in a statement, quote, any allegations that ICE did not provide services to Javier Diaz-Santana in order for him to have the ability to communicate with others is false. ICE medical staff provided him with a communications board and an American Sign Language interpreter. Did that happen?
I'm not sure what a communications board is. I'm wondering if they are referring to, pen and paper, because Javier did tell us that he was able to write some basic things, like if he needed to use the bathroom, if he needed something, he was able to write that to the ICE agents. Even in El Paso, Texas, he had to write down on a piece of paper what his needs were. As far as an ASL interpreter, he was provided an ASL interpreter at his immigration bond hearing. I will tell you something that surprised me. When I was getting ready for that bond hearing, we called the immigration court in El Paso, Texas, to make sure that he was going to have an ASL interpreter. The court clerk let me know that there was nothing in his paperwork that indicated to them that he needed an ASL interpreter. I had to file a motion for bond and attach paperwork to show that my client needed an ASL interpreter that day. So he was provided one at the hearing, something that he was really grateful for, because he had been detained for 25 days at this point. And imagine not being able to speak to anyone. It was the first time that he was finally able to communicate with someone through an ASL interpreter.
We are completely out of time. I have to ask you very, very quickly, what's his status now? What happens next?
So he continues to maintain DACA. It is valid through 2027. We are in court proceedings. I'm hoping that I can, again, administratively close those proceedings. This is a deferral from deportation. DACA is supposed to get you out of the immigration enforcement system.
Roxana Miro, an important story. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.